There's a storm coming in.
Honey, a much bigger bang than you bargained for.
Hello YouTube and people of the interwebs. Welcome back to another Doctor Who theory video. Today we're going to be discussing the possibility that Ruby Sunday may in fact be the child of the Trickster. It's a big theory. It's kind of outlandish, and when you first hear it you go, why? Why would that happen? But there is a surprising amount of evidence that points toward this that we're going to break down in today's video. First up, who is the Trickster? If you didn't watch the Sarah Jane Adventures back in, I think it was airing between 2007 and 2011, I think. If you'd never watched the Sarah Jane Adventures, he was sort of the big bad. He's a godlike being who belongs to a pantheon of discourse. He's the guy that's semi-responsible for the events of Turn Left, the season 4 penultimate episode, which, yeah, he's a big deal. He's a godlike figure, and with gods, myths and legends being a big part of the second Russell T Davies era, due to the 14th Doctor sprinkling the salt at the edge of the universe. I mean, I'm still kind of unsure on just how that leap in logic is made, but that's beside the point. Gods, myths and legends are everywhere, with Jinx Monsoon's Maestro and Neil Patrick Harris's Toymaker warning of the one who waits. I think we could have figured it out here. For any of you who don't know, this is Skye from the Sarah Jane Adventures. She is Sarah Jane's daughter, and her story arc was originally set to be incredibly similar to that of Ruby's. What did we actually get in the show? Well, she was abandoned as a baby, as a foundling, and taken in by Sarah Jane, and sort of she grew up there and was raised there, and then sadly, due to the passing of Elizabeth Sladen, they never got to film more. But here we have the original plan for Skye, which is sounding incredibly familiar. So, in the intended final story for Series 5, The Battle of Bannerman Road, Skye would have been revealed as a child of the Trickster, who had reportedly been given to Sarah Jane as part of the Trickster's scheme to conquer Earth with chaos. Okay, this gets more credit as well for being a reused plotline for Ruby Sunday, when you realise that originally Skye's sort of debut episode was going to be in a Christmas special in the Sarah Jane Adventures. The original plan, as stated in the writer's tale, and I did a whole video on this last Christmas because obviously it was a Christmas special, you can go and check it out. It was going to be like a parody or a interpretation of A Christmas Carol where Sarah Jane sees a bit of her past, and there was talk of Tom Baker like playing the ghost of Christmas Past or something, which would have been great fun. But point is, Matt Smith's 11th Doctor would have shown up at the end and Skye would have been on the doorstep. She'd have been abandoned and left there, and then obviously eventually the big plan, the big arc was for her to grow up to be the Trickster's child. And what's interesting as well, this little quote says she herself would have become like the Trickster. Now, obviously, they never got to finish making that season of Sarah Jane, which is a huge shame, but maybe Russell sort of recycling this plot. There's even more evidence added to this theory as well, because Russell said the idea he had for the church on Ruby Road was something that had been brewing in his mind for absolute, years. And he said as well that the finale has been an idea that's been bubbling away for about 40 years in his head. So this idea of a child abandoned on Christmas Eve in the snow, it's matching up. But that's not our only piece of evidence. A lot of people have pointed out, despite them being made by two different composers, Sam Watts and Murray Gold, the music that plays, the song inside Ruby's hearts that Maestro forces to come out of her in The Devil's Chord sounds incredibly similar to the Trickster's motif from the Sarah Jane Adventures. Just give it a listen.
That's wrong.
What do you mean?
There's a hidden...
I am asking you, just...
That music also played whenever that weird little cube thing that made you remember, I haven't watched the episodes in years, but I think this cube makes you remember like the Trickster's events after he changes history around you. I think that's the vibe. And that cube has recently made an appearance in whoniverse-related media. In the Tales of the TARDIS, it doesn't serve any purpose to the plot, but Clyde Langer sits on a chair and finds this weird trickster-like cube which plays that motif as well. It's kind of intriguing. I mean, they're drawing deliberate attention to, one, the memory TARDIS, and two, that cube. Now, why did I say the memory TARDIS is relevant? Obviously, the cube is relevant because it's like part of defeating the trickster, part of stopping the trickster's godlike power. But, oh dear. Disney leaked it, guys. I did make another big video on this leak if you want to go and check it out. It's technically not a leak because it's in the official Disney trailers, so we are allowed to talk about it, but that's the memory TARDIS. The 15th Doctor in his finale get-up with, if you zoom in, Mel behind him and someone else to his right are in the memory TARDIS. So it kind of makes sense if they do defeat the trickster and they use that cube and it gets left in this memory TARDIS, because we know that the big finale villain, the one who waits, is probably going to show up in the finale. The Doctor's going to have to stop them. It's all kind of piecing together, don't you think? Then, just to emphasise the point, these gods and these pantheons are the big, that's the big plot, the arc for this season. The trickster, I reckon, is going to show up and say, Doctor, you have a choice. It's this or this. Or maybe Ruby's going to be kind of twisted by her father's evil ways of doom. But I also think it's an interesting parallel to have the trickster being the tricks, all those games, and then the toy maker being he's too scared to face the one he waits. That's what he says. He doesn't want to make a decision or a deal with the trickster. Maybe the trickster's got all these godlike powers, and now that the salt's been sprinkled, he's got even more power and he's more deadly than ever before. Also, another fun little thing to add to this theory is that person dropping Ruby off at the church, I mean, it is just a black cloak, but also it's similar to the trickster's get-up, kind of. Do you know what, maybe I'm reaching there, but if this whole idea of Ruby becoming like the trickster by the end is correct, then what if that is Ruby and she temporarily maybe turns evil or pretends to turn evil to trick the trickster, and she wears that trickster sort of garb, and time paradoxy godlike thing, she has to drop herself as a baby off at the church to keep the timeline in sync, something like that. I don't know, those ideas are just, yeah, they're sort of, I'm throwing them out there, you guys can make sense of them. Also, this little fella, the Grask, followed round the trickster and helped him out on numerous occasions in the Sarah Jane adventures, and he was disguised as a posh little boy in historical clothing. And who else? Harbinger from the Devil's Cord is a posh little boy. He shows up at the end as well. He didn't die. There's always a twist at the end. Harbinger comes back. What if Harbinger is the Grask in disguise? Something like that. Maybe we're reaching there, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I think there is a lot of evidence to support this theory, but also on the downside of it, would Russell bring a villain like the Trickster from what is effectively it's a brilliant kids show, but from a kids show into a new show? I don't know. The thing that does make me counter that though is, one, the Trickster's a really cool villain, and two, our generation, well, my generation at least, a lot of people I speak to, when I make my Doctor Who fan films as well, not all of the cast have watched Doctor Who, but they've almost all watched Sarah Jane Adventures. A lot of my generation know who the Trickster is, because they were watching CBBC and watching the Sarah Jane Adventures when it broadcast. So, I don't know, he's kind of a big deal for the younger generations. Maybe that's the thinking behind it, or maybe it's just a cool idea. Maybe he's trying to explore the plot he could never do with Ruby. Let me know your theories in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. I'm going to stop flapping my hands about. Bye!